But I think you do see the reality of people at the very top of the ladder. The rules are just totally different for them. We didn't hear a lot of evidence because they've obviously changed their plea at this very last minute. So you'll hear more during the sentencing hearing. But they're basically saying there was a map drawn out for the police to find these weapons and everything. I mean, it's quite incredible.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the sins of the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Kinahan Cartel leader Thomas Bomber Kavanagh and his brother-in-law Liam Byrne made a shock U-turn earlier today when they changed their pleas to guilty in the Old Bailey as their trial for a gun plot was about to get underway. Tonight I'm talking with Niall Donald about the pleas, about the code of Omertà in the underworld, and about the fate of their co-accused. This is Crime World, a podcast from SundayWorld.com. You cross about those headphones?
Well, no, it's frustrating, isn't it? I'm to be undone by technology, especially when we're dealing with high technology cases, you know?
Absolutely. But the ones you had on your head there a minute ago as we were testing them looked like those glasses that you buy, your burner glasses and your burner headphones.
They're actually relatively expensive, but
yeah, you just can't work them. I wasn't really expecting to see you again so quick.
No.
And then you texted me and you said Bomber Kavanagh and Liam Byrne have done an 11th hour guilty plea over in the Old Bailey.
Which is really quite amazing, isn't it?
I was expecting it actually, because they were obviously, so there's been legal argument going on and they've been trying to have bits taken out and all the rest of it of the case, but they haven't been getting very far, and they've now pleaded guilty. I mean, listen, they're still going to be facing hefty sentences. So they've basically said, they've admitted that they stockpiled these firearms so as they could act as informants, give them over to the police and get a lighter sentence for Bomber Kavanagh for drug smuggling way back in a couple of years ago when he was when he got that 21-year sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows two things. I mean, this notion that the code of gangland where people don't talk to police and don't inform, and of course it's so rigidly enforced. I mean, probably half of the gangland murders surround this idea that people are informing. But I think you do see the reality of people at the very top of the ladder. The rules are just totally different for them. I mean,
Totally.
I mean, the extent at which we didn't hear a lot of evidence because they've obviously changed their plea at this very last minute. So you'll hear more during the sentencing hearing. But they're basically saying there was a map drawn out for the police to find these weapons and everything. I mean, it's quite incredible. But they seem to have been undone by this EncroChat hack, where while they're dealing with the police, while Bomber's dealing with the police and giving this information, he's also interacting with people on EncroChat, and that's showing a whole different
story. Is he dealing with the police? You see, I don't think, and we will hear the full story at sentence hearing, which is sort of laid down preliminary for the end of October. I suspect that might be a little bit longer actually, but I don't think he'd got to the stage that he was dealing with the police. I think that the plot was uncovered on EncroChat and they slowly sort of unravelled the handles. Do you think he was actually sitting down with the police telling them, I'm going to hand you over guns?
Well, I think he said, I mean, it says in this court copy, and we haven't heard the details, Kavanagh spoke to the NCA and told them weapons had been brought from the UK to Holland. And he produced a map which led police to a farm in Northern Ireland and 2 buried holdalls containing 11 submachine guns. So in the I don't know if he was suggesting that he had nothing to do with it. He just had this information that, you know, he'd heard this on the grapevine. But in the meantime, there seems to have been simultaneously the NCA being passed information on the gang from French authorities, it said. So simultaneously, they got into these EncroChat messages and they'd obviously seen they determined there was this plot going on, and the NCA used this information to determine that Kavanagh was lying. So we don't know the specifics about what he was lying.
The dates are kind of like, you know, these counts that they've pleaded guilty to relate to dates between the 9th of January 2020, the 3rd of June 2021, which is when those weapons were discovered, right? But the Encro hack was April 2020 to about June, July 2020. So it's a full year on by the time they actually uncover these. That's why I'm a little bit confused about it. And I do think that we will get the full, hopefully, story of this in sentence hearing.
Well, I mean, I think we can, you're right. Like, I mean, it is confusing. And obviously they obviously he offered these up to some extent. Then they were seized. This is all in the aftermath of the Encro chat. And then obviously the NCA went back, and maybe he said, he played down his own involvement. They went back and checked on the handles and have caught him directly lying.
Exactly. And of course, what we know so far is what they've caught them on the handles is actually purchasing those guns to be able to dump them. So it wasn't, perhaps if he had said, I know where they are, I'll lead you to them. But him actually buying them and dumping them himself is just going another step. And a step too far, I imagine, for most police in most jurisdictions.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately what he pled guilty to, and Liam Byrne as well, obviously one of the most notorious gangland figures in Ireland, a person we've done so many podcasts on, regarded probably as one of the key figures in the Kinahan Cartel's operations in Ireland, whose brother was killed in the Regency Hotel. So both Kavanagh and Liam Byrne and a third guy, Sean Kent, have pled guilty to, have admitted 2 counts of conspiracy to possess a prohibited weapon and 2 counts of conspiracy to possess ammunition for a firearm without a certificate. And Kavanagh and Kent have also admitted perverting the course of justice. So Liam Byrne is not pled guilty to that second charge, according to, today's proceedings. So he will basically be done for a weapons charge, where Bomber Kavanagh will be done for this extra charge, which is, I presume, basically lying to the police and trying to cook up this plan. We did hear some evidence in the extradition about Liam Byrne discussing the purchase of the weapons in Holland. I think the value was it 4,000 or something for each of these?
3,000 for a Glock or something like that. Yeah, very cheap.
Yeah, so he's obviously facing. That's what he'll face. So again, there's in the UK, somebody done for weapons is likely to face a very lengthy sentence. The sentencing in Ireland for those sort of guns charges is kind of a minimum of 5 years, really. So you can expect them to serve a lengthy sentence behind bars. Is Kavanagh's behaviour a step too far for the criminal underworld?
Well, I think it is, I have to say, and I think that they have made themselves very tough.
Yeah, because I mean, can he say, well, I handed up these weapons, but I didn't give any names, something like that? Does that allow him to sneak in under the code of Omertà? I mean, I'd be very, very surprised if it did. The criminal code is you say nothing to the police about anything ever. I mean, even if you remember the mafia trials in the US, they used to, if a mafia guy even admitted the existence of Cosa Nostra, that was enough for you to be excommunicated for life. You didn't even have to give another name or say what anybody did. Merely admitting the existence of it was enough to have you excommunicated. Now, can Bomber Kavanagh, can he sit in a prison or come out of prison and mix in that world and be regarded as somebody who's upheld that code?
And Liam Byrne too, and to consider Liam Byrne briefly, he has served a sentence before for a violent offence, but it's been 20 years since he's been behind bars. He's been in jail in custody since he was arrested in Mallorca last summer. But at the same time, it'll be a long sentence, and he's he didn't bury his father because he didn't get out for the funeral of James Jaws Byrne last Friday. They're not actually having a good run of it, the Byrne organised crime group, or Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, who's the son-in-law of Jaws Byrne. Byrne died after an illness and was buried on Friday, a couple of weeks after a nephew of his, Liam Byrne, died as well. So they've kind of had blow after blow, the organisation.
Yeah, and if you remember Liam Byrne, you're talking about that case. It was an assault case, and he had I think a suspended sentence that was partially activated as well. He served 4 or 5 years in prison. He came out and he had this whole network to come into, to fit back into. He had his cousin Fat Freddie Thompson. He had his brother-in-law Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, and all of that world to fit right back into as soon as he came out of prison. Like Liam Byrne, after he serves whatever period of time in the UK, he's simply just not going to have that to come back out to again. I mean, over those 20 years, he has, moved around the globe. He has been socializing with celebrities. He's mixed with Conor McGregor, Stephen Gerrard, none of whom have any involvement in crime. We've had pictures of him living in these plush mansions in the UK, and he obviously spent an unimaginable amount of money in Crumlin during the 2010s. So it's just not going to be the same when he gets out this time.
Well, listen, I think we should leave that there because it's been a really long day, right? And there's been so much going on from the opening of the morning with the Europol press conference into this hack. We've EncroChat phones here feeding into this Bomber Kavanagh narrative. We're going to be talking again in more detail over the coming days about EncroChat and developments and targets of some of the police forces now. And I think we can examine this Bomber Kavanagh case further and those EncroChat messages further when we're talking about that. But
yeah, I mean, you're seeing some of the big players fall in all in the space of a couple of days in Irish history. If you look at the family have been such a wide target of this ghost encrypted hack, and now you have Bomber Kavanagh and Liam Byrne, people that were untouchable. It's a momentous day, and again, you have to say they've largely been undone by technology, just like me with my head. My headphones to a slightly larger extent.
And can I just finish by saying the curse has obviously petered out with me, because I'm not anywhere on an airplane or anything. I'm here for this day, for this momentous day.
Yes, it's good. It's good.
The gypsy curse is gone, like that I lived with for so many years. Anyway, right, leave it at that, and we'll come back to it on a bigger conversation about hacking. Thanks, Niall. You've been listening to Crime World, edited and presented by me, Nicola Tallant, co-presenter Niall Donald, produced by Ian Malini, art and design Enda Bulger, assistant producer Claude Amini, research assistant Nasa Kumaski, and audio editor Jason Malini. I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.